Good evening and welcome to the official podcast of the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust. We're back. We know it's been a while. I guess we should start by saying that life and jobs have got in the way, haven't they? So it's been one of those where we've all been very busy. Also working on trust initiatives, which we'll talk about during this pod, I'm sure. As usual, I'm joined. My name is Martin Bahaja, obviously, and then I'm joined by Rob White, obviously, and Thula Achilleos, obviously, and Rachel Martin, obviously. I think I should say it's obvious we're all of us
the obviously family. We're not related.
The obvious family.
Yeah.
The Adams.
And my two dogs who are sitting here listening to me talk. So that's about it from the introduction point of view. We'll start by saying a bit about what we do, Supporters Trust. Obviously we're here for Tottenham Hotspur supporters. If you don't know anything about us, please get onto our website, THSTofficial.com. These podcasts are to give you a window to look into what we do as a group of volunteers, and it's really important as well for us that you feel represented by us, but also that you take the time to read about us and what we do, and potentially join. And Rob, you can tell us about what we do, why it's so important, and why people should join.
Indeed. Hi there. Yeah. So basically, the main reason to join the trust is to make sure that really there's a way of us fans getting our opinion across to the club, and the club have committed to listening to us. Obviously that fluctuates, but we also provide advice to fans who contact us on a wide variety of ticketing issues and safety issues. So there's various reasons to get involved. Mostly it's about I guess it's just about having that feeling that as a supporter your voice can be heard. We're also on, we're involved with things like ticketing inquiries, Rachel catering, community stuff, food bank. So it's sort of involved in lots of areas and just trying to make a difference really, and trying to give a cohesive fan voice, I think. So if anybody's new to this and feels like they want to find out more, go on the THST official website, which is THSTofficial.com. On there's a page which is about membership. If you click on there, there's a little button. There's two buttons. One is Join THST Now. One is Renew Your Membership. If you click through THST Now, it will give you a list of options. You can become an associate member for free. We would obviously much prefer for you to become a full member. Adult full member is £10, which I don't think you can buy 2 beers in most places for £10 now, and that will give you a
stadium.
Rachel, especially in the stadium, and it'll give you a year's membership, and it will give you full voting rights if you're a full member. You could stand for election if if you're so inclined. You could stand for election on the trust board. So you can actually feel like you're playing a part in the trust. For us, I think it's better to join if you can join on a direct debit, but just have a look on the Join THST button.
Thanks, Rob. And always remember, of course, that the European Super League was stopped by Supporters Trust football fans. Just a little dig in there at the right time. Well, as we're back.
Oh, and disclaimer, when you do sign up, it will say PayPal, but you don't have to have a PayPal to sign up. So don't worry, it's not anything to do with PayPal. I think Love Admin just have them there, but you don't have to have PayPal to sign up.
Thanks, Anne.
While we're talking about money, I guess given that the transfer deadline was yesterday, we can have a quick chat. We don't normally do on field. We're all football fans. We want to talk about on field, don't we? So we might as well touch on what happened. Well, the transfer window. I'll start. I'm always happy to give my opinion. I thought it was a bit of a fiasco personally. I'm pleased we got Bentakar and Kulusevski, but I thought we were going to sign a right wing back because, let's be honest, Emerson Royale looks like Sergio Aurier on work experience, and then there's Matt Doherty. So we were in for Adama Traore, weren't we, for 8, and then that died. And I don't know. I mean, how do you guys feel? It just feels like, again, it was, and we've gone back to just sign players that Patrici signed for Juventus. Just, I don't know. I'm a bit underwhelmed. And then don't get me started on selling Dele Alli.
Oh.
should have loaned him out.
That video today got me right in the feels.
Oh, come on, get over it.
Why did we loan him?
Remember the last 3 years, not the first 4 years.
Loan him out and bring him back. Don't sell him, for goodness sake.
I thought I wasn't going to be that fast because obviously the last couple of years he hasn't been playing very well. But honestly, bringing back the memories of him in that Pochettino team just made me cry. So I clearly wasn't.
And he'll do well at Everton. You can see under that he will score goals. I can just see him. I don't know. But what did you? Did you think we should have signed right back? Did that seem like the obvious position?
I haven't got a problem with like the players moving out that moved out. It's just that we didn't really replace them. Like I think we're quite thin on the ground still, if I'm honest. And I don't know if the two that we got are they. I don't know. Did Conte want them? I don't know. We'll see how they do. I'm obviously not going to judge. So in terms of what we brought in, I think they're the right positions to strengthen us. But I also think we did weaken ourselves by thinning out our squad. That's where I stand.
Kulusevski looks very good on a video I watched, but then I remember watching a really good video of Vincent Janssen.
Doesn't everyone look good on videos though? They just take out the clips of the best bits.
He looks like he's a very sweet left foot, and Bentancur's a very good central midfielder. But like you say, Lo Celso and Ndombele, Dele gone from the midfield, just Bentancur coming in. It just feels a little bit potentially way. But maybe I'm a bit unfair on Emerson Royal. I'm still a little bit aggrieved by the summer transfers as well. Galini, Emerson Royal. I don't feel that we've gone in the right direction there, and I think that right wing back spot's been a problem for years since Kyle Walker left, and it's a bit like the Moussa Dembele situation, isn't it? We're just not replacing those big figures. But there you go.
Yeah, I agree.
Rachel, what did you think, Rach?
Well, yeah, I mean, a bit underwhelmed. I was totally okay about Dele going. I felt,
I'm interested in the players that are moving on. Come on, that are coming in.
Okay. We can't really talk about Dele without bursting into tears, so we won't do that. The two who came in, I think they're great. I think they're good players, but is that, as you said, what we needed? And where are the extra goals coming from? I mean, it just feels, why the heck we haven't gone for another striker? We're totally dependent on Harry at number 9. I just don't know why we didn't go for, people who know the Premier League as well, and other clubs have been signing a few. The only consolation for me is that the rest of the people that we're competing with have done nothing. Yeah. And in fact, Aubameyang was so desperate to leave. I always get them mixed up. Is he is Aubameyang?
Yeah.
Who's gone?
Who's
so desperate to leave? He's taken like a £9 million pay cut or something just to get out of there. So I think that we're not as weakened as some of those around us. Let's put it like that.
I think a friend of mine on one of my WhatsApp groups, Negative Stew, to give him a name, he just
love you saying that.
Quite nicely, I think. He said it's like when you go shopping in the sales and you need a pair of jeans, but you come back with 2 sweaters. And I think that was cool. That sort of sums it up, really.
It's brilliant.
Bang on. And I think the thing that gets me is, like you said, Rachel, the creativity, because there's no Eriksen, there's no Dele, there's no Ndombele. At times they have been our creative players, and in Conte's system, I always think the creativity comes from the wing backs, and I think Reguilon's looking dangerous down the left, but I just don't, with Emerson Royal's haphazard sort of crossing, I'm a bit concerned about that. I think it's so.
Yeah. But Doherty looked really good against Leicester. So
he actually did credit him.
I thought it was really interesting. He spent the transfer window with Eric Dyer and Harry Kane. It's sort of keep your it's like bodyguards around him. I'm not going anywhere because I've got these two as mates, basically.
And I wasn't excited about getting Traore at all.
No, I wasn't either.
His stats are terrible.
I do. There's something about giving him the ball and letting him run for 70 yards, bashing people out of the way and then sliding into Kane that did have me a little bit excited.
I was on the fence.
I think he would have been a good addition if Conte wanted him. We don't know if he did and was going to play him right wing back. Then that could have been very interesting. I think, but who knows? We'll see. And I think Kulusevski and Bentancur will be good sign. I do think they're good players. You don't play for Juventus if you're a mug, do you?
Yeah, absolutely.
just needed it anyway. Shall I shift on? What we're going to do, because I could talk about that for ages. I just go around in circles and then we'll end up back to Delhi. I'll get the guitar out and I'll start singing the Delhi song.
And we'll start sobbing.
It will just descend into farce. What we're going to do, and so our commitment to this podcast for our regular listeners, and thank you for tuning in, is that we're going to meet at least monthly, and we're going to go through our newsletter and we're going to talk to you about the work that the trust has been doing, and the work that we're doing in the community, and the work that we're doing for you, other Tottenham supporters. So we're just going to go through a number of initiatives that we've worked on in January. It's been a busy start, and I guess a good place to kick off, Rachel, is with the fan-led review.
Yeah, I was part of the delegation from Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust that spoke to the panel on the fan-led review, which included Tracy Crouch MP and Clark Carlisle and various others. It was a really interesting process. We put a lot of work into our submission, and you'll remember that it actually came about because of the European Super League. So I think for us, you could only really judge whether it was going to be a success if on the basis of would it stop another similar bid. So we were pleasantly surprised by the outcome of the review, although at the moment it's all recommendations, not statutory. So we've got to really keep the pressure on, along with the FSA, the Football Supporters Association, to make sure that this goes through as legislation, and we want people to write to their MPs and really get that sort of pressure going. But the introduction of an independent regulator is a really positive thing. Obviously, at its heart is having greater fan representation and accountability of the board to the fans. And so where we are at now is we're having conversations with the club, senior people at the club, to make sure that the supporter board has teeth, that it's fairly elected. We're sort of working on that sort of nitty-gritty part of what sort of terms people would serve, how they would be selected, elected, etc., and what sort of powers they would have, and what sort of golden share they would have, what issues would be absolute no-nos, and or that you would have vetoes, and also how confidentiality would work, because all of these things are obviously big issues. And then currently we're working on articles of association and how we can get these sort of established into the club's governance structure as well. So there's lots. There's all the details are obviously on our website. Once we've got a basic agreement on where we think it should be, and that is a feasible plan that the club would be willing to work with, then of course we will put it to members. So we will have a meeting and we will put it to the members, our members of Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust, so that there would be a vote to see if you endorse our position.
Another important reason why to sign up.
Exactly.
Completely. Thank you, Rachel. And I guess another important reason to sign up is just to find out more information about ticketing issues, because if we look at our mailbox, ticketing is always the number one, isn't it? It's always the most the most in demand subject. Yeah. So so on that, and no pressure, I'll hand over to you for a ticketing update.
Yeah, I think part of the reason why it's such a big thing in our inbox is people don't really know where to go to look for the information, because that website is atrocious to navigate, let's be honest, guys. And actually the information is all there on Ask Spurs. It's really hard to navigate, but if you just type in Ask Spurs into Google, it will come up and you can directly get onto it. And there's actually a lot of information on there, and really useful information. So if you're still confused about anything, have a look there first, and that should be the first port of call. But then obviously, of course, if you're still confused, do message us and we can help as well. And another reason, I think we just reply a lot quicker than the club as well, so I think that's also another reason why people like to ask us. But yeah, so we had a meeting with the head of ticketing at Spurs recently, so just go over a few bits and bobs. So one of the first things we spoke about was season ticket renewals. So we lobbied for a at minimum a price freeze for next season, and then also asked as well for the reintroduction of the 2 cup games that we lost a couple of years ago. Not really holding out much hope on that, but we are going to ask. And also for the renewal date to the deadline to be after the season ends, so that payment doesn't have to be given before the end of the season. In terms of the postponed home game against Arsenal, I know a lot of people have been up in arms about that, and it is a really contentious thing, because obviously the season ticket holders that put their tickets up onto exchange or pass them on through share was on the basis that the game wouldn't be happening, or they weren't able to attend on that date, right? So the game is obviously being moved, but there's really strict T&Cs around ticketing on the website. It's pretty ironclad that once a ticket's been sold or passed on, it is in the property of somebody else. So what we did ask them for is for season ticket holders to have every opportunity possible to get a ticket for the rearranged fixture, which is probably likely to be midweek. So it would be something like, so what we said was there'd be potentially a priority window for season ticket holders to log in and buy a ticket on Ticket Exchange, or for if someone who bought a ticket on Ticket Exchange isn't able to make the rearranged fixture, and I expect there's going to be a lot of those because of the fact it's going to be rearranged for midweek. You don't know what people are traveling like. If they return it, then we would like for that ticket to go back to the season ticket holder who put it up to begin with. And then with ticket share, it would just be conversations between, if you shared your ticket, you know who you've shared it to, so you can have a discussion with that person, and if they'd like to get back to you, then hopefully the club can arrange that as well. So yeah, these are all things that we asked for them to do, to just take into account the fact that obviously season ticket holders didn't know that it was going to be rearranged. We also spoke to them about the fact that they sneakily took away concessions for cup games. So the youth category, and the seniors category has been taken away, and their reasoning for that is that cup games are reasonably priced already at £25. And we did emphasise that that's not really the point. The point is that you should be acknowledging the fact that there's certain categories of fans that haven't got the income that they used to and aren't able to pay excessive amounts for prices of tickets, in conjunction with the fact they're probably spending money on travelling to the game anyway. So they're sort of eroding away at that concessionary price category. So we did start speaking to them about that as well, and have emphasised the point on that. And I think also a big thing to mention to you guys is now that COVID has officially been said as over by the government, restrictions are also over, and the club are reverting back to pre-COVID stances when it comes to ticket share and ticket exchange. So prior to COVID, ticket exchange would only open if the game was sold out or at the discretion of the club. If there's a few tickets left, they might want to open ticket exchange. Because of COVID, they said that they're going to guarantee that it would open 48 hours before the game, so that people can have a chance to shift their tickets if they have COVID or anything to do restrictions COVID-wise. But that's been scrapped. It was in their comms yesterday, I believe, when they sent out comms around the Brighton game. It was very small at the end of it, so have a look at that. I see you shaking your head, Rachel. Yeah. So ticket exchange may not open. It will be at the discretion of the club, and also it's been written off now for members. So they did open it for members as well because of the pandemic, but again, that's reverting back. So members will no longer be able to use the ticket exchange platform to sell their ticket on if they bought one. And same with ticket share. So ticket share won't open for members as well. So members were also able to use ticket share to share their tickets on as well. So that's not going to be a thing for them anymore. Did you have a question, Rachel?
Yeah. So with members,
yes,
if they bought a ticket and they can't go, the club stance is that seat will be empty.
Well, they can get in touch with the club, and I'm pretty sure they should refund them. If they can't go for whatever reason, if it's a certain time period before the game, they can get a refund and the ticket will just go back up for sale. That was the original before COVID. We are getting more clarification from them, because in the meeting we had with them, it wasn't very clear when all these things were going to revert back. And we've only just recently seen that that's happening. So we're still in the process of clarifying that. We're also clarifying if anything's changed in terms of away tickets, because again, previously you would be able to get a refund 7 days before a game, but because of COVID, you could get it up until the game. So we're going to ask about that. And then to clarify, on their comms, it kind of says it's for Premier League fixtures, but we're clarifying if that's the same for cup games as well, because again, it's not very clear. So yeah, we're in the process of clarifying that, but just so that people are aware to check with the club. If you've bought a ticket and you can't go, don't assume you can use ticket share or ticket exchange, especially if you're a member, because they've reverted back to pre-COVID circumstances. So yeah, I think those are the main points from January.
That's
It
just
was-
one.
I don't think but yeah, always if there's questions, just send us an email.
Thanks, Anne. Sorry, you froze.
It's a lot. It's a lot of granular detail, isn't it?
There is. It was just amazing that there's that much detail in.
Oh, one more actually.
Go on.
One more. Digital ticketing. People who have had any problems with digital ticketing, the club are really, really trying to minimise that. It has gotten better. It's usually people who are new to the stadium and don't really know how the system works. But as always, if there's any problems, make sure you contact the club well in advance. Don't assume that you're just going to rock up and have your ticket sorted, especially with the queues at the ticket office on match day. You don't want to have that problem. And a top tip that I picked up on was, if you've sold your ticket or on ticket exchange, or you've shared it for a game, the next game it's highly unlikely to auto update at the moment. It never updated for me, but you can manually update it, and all you have to do is, on an iPhone, if you just click the 3 dots and then just scroll down, it will update for you. So just make sure you do that before a game if you've noticed it hasn't updated, and it's likely because there's sort of some sort of break in the chain kind of thing. But we've fed that back to the team at the club, and they're going to take a look into it as well. But as always, any problems, just message the club.
That happened to me for the Arsenal game, or the Chelsea game, Chelsea Cup game. It was showing me Arsenal, and I was like, what do I do? And did the oh my god, I'm gonna have to ring the club. Did the ticket line. I thought, I'm going to be here for 19 days, and then luckily they actually said that on the answer machine, and I was like, oh great, now I know what to do.
Oh, brilliant! They put it on the answer machine. Excellent.
Yeah,
Did you happen to have sold your ticket for the previous game?
No, I hadn't. I don't think I had. No, so I don't know what happened. Yeah, a bit weird.
Who knows? But yeah, there's always a way of manually doing it. So
yeah,
make sure you try that first.
Thanks, Anne. Yeah, bad news about members not being able to use the ticket exchange. That's with attendances sort of just dropping a bit. It seems like a Spurs way.
The issue I've got with that is the tickets that have already been bought have been bought on the premise that they had those in place, COVID stuff in place, so that people could always shift it on. So I think it's a bit unreasonable to have shifted it so quickly, like maybe for games that haven't been bought yet, to kind of tell them before they buy. But the fact that they've already bought tickets and now they've changed the premise on buying those tickets, I don't know, it doesn't quite sit right. But I can also see, it's just
it does feel a little bit like, while there's seats available, we're going to sell ours first, and we're not going to let you get rid of yours.
Well, that's exactly what they're doing, aren't they? They don't want to spoil their pot, essentially. Like, they want to sell their pot first before. But
if they improve things on the pitch, then their pot would be forever flourishing.
Well, quite.
And I think one thing you just made me think of, Anth, was there's been a lot of stuff in the press just recently about how Tottenham are losing, thousands and thousands of pounds every match from empty seats at the stadium. And of course, that actually isn't the case. It's because we publish our people who actually come through the turnstiles, unlike that lot down the road who publish how many they've sold.
Down the road. West Ham as well do that,
yeah,
don't they?
Exactly. So while we might not have everybody sitting on their seats, a lot of the seats have actually been sold. I mean, I think all of us, I certainly have lost money because I couldn't go because I didn't want to risk, not being with my family at Christmas, for example. But there was no chance of selling the ticket on the exchange or share.
No.
So basically, I was paying for a seat that was empty, and lots of people did that.
Exactly, because loads of people haven't been able to shift their tickets this season. It's a long-standing thing that people can't really shift tickets this year, to be honest. And I think partly has to do with the pandemic, and the other part is to do with the performance on the pitch. So I think, and then just one more quick is away tickets next season. The Premier League will be trialling digital away tickets, and we will be one of the clubs that are going to be involved in that, which I think is quite good, really, because it just means that people won't be able to shift tickets as easy for games, and then people won't get annoyed when they can't get a ticket. So.
Yeah, that's good news. Yeah, I couldn't sell my tickets for Palace on Boxing Day. I couldn't go on Boxing Day, and like I say, it was just half empty anyway, so it's really, really difficult. Speaking of selling tickets, I'm in the safe standing part of Spurs in block 257. I do love my little place and my view. And I guess when you look at safe standing, I guess going back years, I remember other people on the trust for years before I was on the board fighting for safe standing being a really big topic. And it's strange, isn't it? Because I remember before I joined the trust being really passionate about bringing safe standing back and thinking this is so important to me as a football fan. I want to stand, and now I go with my kids, and my kids are the same height as me, and it's great, so I don't have to hold them on their seats and all that nonsense. But I was really passionate about safe standing, and it's kind of happened in a really nice way, in that we moved to the stadium, didn't we? And we've had the safe standing area. Now it's obviously been brought in from the start of this year, but we probably feel like we're used to it now, having been at the stadium for a year, if you're in a safe standing area. So I don't. It's one of those. I'm just really pleased that I can stand for the entire game in relative comfort. I've got. It's the only thing that I don't like is when we do score in a big game, the guy behind me always pulls me towards him, and I do get a sore back on the bar. But it's a small price to pay for when we're scoring against Liverpool or Man City. So I've made my peace with that. I think there were a couple of issues when there with we heard about the Morecambe game that. Some families with juniors had purchased tickets, and maybe they don't go as regularly, so they didn't know where the safe standing areas were. So they had some kids at the front or the back of the south stand where there's licensed standing areas. So it might not be suitable for children who struggle to see the game. So now I believe Spurs have installed a pop-up on the ticketing side, so any seats in safe standing areas, it draws their attention to it. Funnily enough, my eldest son Luke couldn't go to the Liverpool game. So I go with my two eldest sons, 3 season tickets. My youngest son, Ethan, who's 9, he hasn't got a season ticket, he's a member. So he came in Luke's seat, and we just transferred the ticket to his membership, which was very easy to do, I have to say. Well done on, that worked really well. And he had to stand on the seat and sort of hold on to me. So it depends how relaxed you are, I guess, in a safe standing area. I was quite relaxed. I've been to away games with my boys for years where they had to stand on seats at Old Trafford or Anfield or Goodison or wherever, and you just sort of stand there with each of them. So I did that with Ethan, and that seemed to work. I don't even know if that's allowed. I mean, the steward didn't seem to mind, so he just looked like he was a very tall 9-year-old. But there are ways around it. But I'm really delighted with the whole safe standing thing. I think it's worked trip. One of the things I give a lot of credit to Spurs for is the design of the stadium, the future proof and the future planning. I think that worked. Next step would be for me to stand safely at Spurs with a pint of neck oil in my hand. That would be a real step forward. But we'll wait and see if that. What do you guys say? I mean, how does are you all in safe standing areas? I don't know where you all sit.
I'm not, but I really want to be. Just couldn't get a ticket in the safe standing area, but I would love to be in the safe standing area. I did sit in them for the cup games and really liked it. So yeah, but it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
I am, Martin. I'm near you.
Where are you?
You're the guy that hugs him when we score.
I'm just yeah, exactly. You beat me to it, Rachel. Thank you.
Sorry.
Rob and I have hugged after a game, and Rob came out, and we bumped into each other. But I was so drunk, I didn't remember till the next day.
But I assume you must have been in the Park Lane lower previously then, at the old ground. So I mean, I know it's not the point, but I've stood safely for 20 years.
Yeah.
but it is great that it's happening. I don't see any drinks holders on the built into the design, Martin. So I think you're gonna have to wait a few more years for your neck oil.
I'll do that on the sport. It just goes up in the air.
Yeah,
like a concept. I was in the Park Lane for years. Then so Luke's now 17. So when I started taking Luke, probably when he was about 6 or 7, so 10 years ago, I went from Park Lane to sort of the corner of the northeast corner, where it wasn't so lively, and people would tell you, yeah, you stood up. So, so I'm very pleased to be where I am.
And I love my seat. I'm in the West Stand, in the corner by the Park Lane. But my lovely friend Pam, who I go to all the matches with, is quite a bit shorter than me. So it was an absolute no-no. We were not going to be going in the safe standing. But we get a great view where we are. We love it.
My mum wants to come to a Spurs game just for the sake. So he said, if there's ever a game Luke and Lou's going to, I'll take my mum. My mum's 4'11", so we are just going to take her and put her in the safe standing area. And I'm not going to allow her to stand on a seat. And we'll just see if she enjoys that.
But it's all about choice, isn't it? And that's the thing, is that you've got to have that option, and you've got to factor it in and make it safe. And like away supporters have always stood, haven't they? Yeah. And now all the away seating is railed, and it's safe. It's so much better. Yeah.
And it's safe as fans. I remember going. I was talking to Luke about this actually. We were talking about standing, and I remember going to a game at Selhurst Park where we were standing, and I was rammed at the front, and they had the barbed wire and the bits you couldn't fall out, and it was hot. It was really warm, and some fans had fainted, and you kind of look back to those days, and like football fans just being penned in. You could go to cricket, you could go to rugby, you could go to horse race, you could do whatever you liked there, and no one would call it. But go to a football match, and you were just penned in with wire in front of your face, and it's just terrible. And it's nice to see fans. Hopefully, we're going to talk about Hillsborough Law later on, but it just fans hopefully being treated like other sports supporting fans, not pigeonholed or put into one group anyway. But there we go. But it's good news. As well as safe standing, I guess. So for me, that's really improved my match day experience. What's also improved my match day experience is is neck oil, which I do love, and some of the food on offer. But food's a subject very close to my heart, Rachel. And you're our catering person, so you're going to give us a match day experience update, which includes catering, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And I think you have to take your hat off, if you wore a hat, to the team. The catering team at the club are amazing, and they are so passionate about what they do. They listen to everybody. We do regular surveys, so please do contribute next time we're doing one. And I regularly meet with Ray, who's head of catering there, and they've got such a fantastic offer. But we can't get away from the fact that the service at the moment is not great. We know that the service industry across the country has really, really struggled since, well, I personally would say Brexit, but also COVID. Everywhere you go, you can see, restaurants, pubs, all asking for staff. Part-time chef required, full-time chef, part-time waiting staff. Everybody is trying to find people because they've all gone into delivery. It's a lot less stressful. They're all working for Amazon, and there are other companies available. So it's really hard for the club to keep consistent staff. So they're constantly having to train people. A lot of our systems are quite high tech. So you really, it's not just like moving from West Ham or Arsenal. That ours is different equipment. We pay well over the London living wage. London living wage and well over. But I think everybody would say, where are those sausage rolls that we used to have? They're not as good this season. We've had 2 price rises. We had one in the close season, one now. Did we see the benefit of the VAT reduction? I didn't notice it. I don't know if anyone else did. Neck oil and I'm also a neck oil drinker. All these prices were meant to be going up for the North London Derby. But while, we issued a statement, we were really disappointed in that pay rise. But then, the match gets cancelled a few hours before it was about to happen, and with my food and beverage hat on, what do you think the impact is on the club with all that food and drink that they've got? They've bought in, it's ready to go. The food bank basically were the recipients of massive amounts of food, and that's all wasted. But of course, what we would say is that it shouldn't be the supporters that are paying for that. The club make lots of money in various other areas. You need to find it from somewhere else. The club have sent me, very interesting and utterly depressing fact files, not produced by them, but by international markets, showing how much food and drink has gone up, delivery charges, price of containers, everything. It has gone through the roof. The prices that we're paying are in line with the retail price index. But, we just feel that 2 price rises in half a season is not fair on supporters, and it doesn't, what we think should happen is, if things are getting too expensive, then look at what you're offering and offer more affordable options. So, for example, through the Get Here hawkers, which I have not been able to find since they started, bring back the smoked salmon bagel, chips, other things that are just a bit more affordable. I mean, the food is absolutely fantastic. Things like the duck wrap, it's awesome. That sounds as though it was a top 10 hit. It's fantastic food, but I would rather people could buy affordable, options than have all that full range of the more expensive high-end offer. And the other thing I would say also about the stadium at the moment, which is not food and bev, but is soap. We're in a pandemic. Why can we not have soap in the soap dispensers?
You sound like Jurgen Klopp now.
You know why though, don't you?
After.
Well, it's high. It's a system that they have to fill it through the whole system, to the stadium. It's not someone going around filling it up. But we'll get the system right. You can't expect people to not have soap.
No, that's shocking. That's just so shocking that you can't have soap.
It's ridiculous.
Rob's got his hand up.
Yeah, Rachel, you probably don't know this, and sorry to put you on the spot, but with the Arsenal game, do we any idea whether the casual staff get paid? My gut feeling is probably not, knowing the way that employment law works. But it was another, I tweeted about it when the Arsenal game was cancelled, as if we need another reason to really dislike that lot. I think there was obviously terrible politics that went on over that, and the shame of it was that for a few millionaires, the ordinary people, who a lot of the staff that work at the ground, that's probably a massive part of their income, weren't actually allowed to get to have that income on that day, which I thought was absolutely shocking.
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer, and I will find out.
Well, I think, if we can find out, that'd be great. Yeah,
it's a good point, actually. I didn't think of that.
It's a good point.
I mean, I won't go down the whole rabbit hole of that game being called off, but one bloody COVID case.
Okay.
They just took the piss out of a rule that was already there by the Premier League, though. I feel like, it's stupid of them. It was really bloody annoying of them to do it, but I also think, it's Premier League's fault, really, isn't it?
So, it is. Selling players.
And it's changed now, hasn't it?
Who are the Premier League?
Selling Maitland-Niles just before. I know Rachel said it's changed now. It's a bit like the bloody Eric Dyer handball against Newcastle.
Everything changes when it's too late.
Well, can we have the points back then, please, for the penalty that should never been given? Let alone the Harry Kane goal against Southampton and compared to Rashford.
The Sissoko
handball? Don't get me started.
Sorry.
Dropping the ball and scoring the winner.
The Lucas Moura goal that was disallowed because they fouled him and he fell onto the ball.
We could do a whole podcast on this.
We should do a podcast on Spurs being wronged as a football club. That would work. The nonsense we have to put out, honestly. That Fraser Forster dropping the ball, and honestly, I nearly broke my telly.
Unbelievable.
So angry. Anyway, we should move on. Let's move on to a much happier subject, and that is our very own Ledley King, and his mural. Now, Rob played a massive part in this. Rob doesn't want to take all the credit because it was a team. He told us before it's a team effort, Rob. If I was in your boots, I'd be taking all the credit. But Rob, just talk us through the whole mural, what you did, how it came about, and obviously name check those that also deserve the credit.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll keep it sort of brief because it could go. Hopefully we may do a podcast episode on its own because it's a long story. It started about 2 years ago, and it was something that I was interested in getting off the ground, and I think it was probably one of the reasons I joined the trust. Actually, back to what I was saying about joining the trust and getting involved, it was something that I'd noticed just from hearing about, and obviously the history and the heritage for me in particular are big things, but I think for a lot of fans the history and the heritage is really important, and I thought there was a point with the new ground where we weren't, where that wasn't being celebrated enough. And also, it was for me, it felt like murals were a really logical way of tying in with the local community a bit more and softening the boundaries literally between the new ground and the local surroundings. So the project took about 18 months, 2 years really to get from start to finish. And I always joke it was literally going around the houses trying to find a suitable wall, trying to raise money for it, trying to get permissions for it, trying to work out who was going to be on the wall. And all the time, I was conscious that for something this big and for something this important that I felt, and so I teamed up with a guy called Mark Silver, who has a company called Mural, who have done a lot of similar things in Liverpool. They've done a lot. They've just done a big one in Watford, actually, which is lovely. They've done a Graham Taylor one, but they've also done an underpass. They've done stuff with Manchester City. So I felt that the subject matter had to be correct, and as it turned out, Ledley was that man. And so once we got Ledley on board, and the club bought into it fully, which was November 2021. Then from there on, it was actually quite a fairly quick process. But the sort of difficulty was actually in the schedule that we worked out. We had a big gap from, I think it was Watford at home or Watford. Basically, we didn't have a game in the diary until Arsenal at home, which meant that we had a 10-day window to get this mural, because part of the joy of it was going to be just unveiling this thing. And actually that was the hard bit, because we had a game with Morecambe and we had Chelsea in between, which weren't in the diary when we scheduled this piece of work in. But actually I think it was really vindicated, because I was chatting to, I went on to the Fighting Cock and talked to Flav about it, and one of the things that I love about this project was that Flav was actually really pissed off with me because he hadn't heard a sniff or didn't know anything about this. And he said, how the hell did you manage to keep this thing quiet? And yeah, I have to apologise to you guys, because I think you guys were kept in the dark a little bit. You knew what was going on and you were bored of hearing about it. But yeah, it's been a really, really positive experience. I think it's a really good example of what can happen when the club, the community and the fans pull in the same way. And my contacts at the club, as I said, once Ledley was on board, they have been really good. Tony Stevens has been brilliant. The whole media team have been great. We had the help of Peter Crouch, Michael Dawson, Alton Thelwell, who there's a great video. I think it's been seen something like 200,000. Well, their media's been seen 200,000 times, and ours probably has been seen a lot as well. So yeah, it's been great. I think the video is going to be shown at some point during the Brighton game this week. It was supposed to be shown at half-time with Ledley at the Arsenal game, which is yet another reason to really, really dislike that lot for calling the game off. But aside from me seeing my face on one of those jumbo screens, I'm actually pleased that I didn't get to see that at half-time of the Arsenal game. Anyway, so that's the project. Hopefully it's the start of a project, because I think that we can push forward now. I think as a trust, I've certainly got a lot of information and a lot of knowledge about how these projects happen now, which I've learned in the last 18 months. And I think it will be a really good opportunity for us to help other organisations or maybe other supporters groups, overseas supporters groups, anybody who wants to look to get a mural commissioned. I can help them. We're talking about fundraising, talking about permission, talking about design. My long-term plan is that we get maybe 10 or a dozen of these scattered around the area that help to sort of illustrate the good, not the bad, or the good, the good and the not so good maybe about Spurs. There could be a Stefan Freund mural, who knows? But they don't all have to be 23 foot. And for those of you that don't know the location of it, it's on the side of the Tottenham Community Sports Centre, which is on the high road, diagonally opposite the shop, and for those of you still working in Old Money, opposite the Bell and Hare. And it is a thing of absolute beauty. And really? I think Ledley's reaction was, I was lucky enough to be there, and his reaction was absolutely, it was beautiful actually. It was really lovely, and I don't think it's a problem sharing this. His wife was there as well, and she messaged me later on in the afternoon, myself and Mark from Murals, and she was saying about how touched he was with the whole thing. And she sent me a picture. They've got 2 young kids, and they'd taken the kids up after school. They took the kids up to show them the mural, and it's just such a sweet thing to have that. So it's a real feel-good story, and as I say, hopefully we can build on that.
No, that's lovely, Rob. And hats off to you, Mark, and all the people involved for doing that. It's just brilliant, and it looked fantastic. Got such good media exposure. It was really, really brilliant. I was really proud.
Exactly. One more thing actually. Well, you just reminded me something. Well, 2 things. One, Kevin Lincoln who runs the sports centre, was absolutely fantastic. But what was lovely, because I was there for 3 days while this thing was being installed, and that sports centre is the most used sports facility in Haringey, with all sorts, literally the whole of cross section of Haringey going there. So many people reacted so positively, and not just Spurs fans. Everybody's reaction was really, really positive. So I think let's celebrate that.
I like the sound of a Stefan Freund mural. We could actually do a competition. Like who would be? I'm trying to think of a nice way of wording this. Who would be an amusing mural? I was thinking like Jose Dominguez or Musa Saib, someone like that. Paolo Tramezzani mural. That would be absolutely brilliant. So that's the way my mind works. So no, brilliant, Robin. Thanks for that update. And there was a lot of love for the mural shared on social media as well. So I'm sure people listening to this will find it fascinating to know how it came about and the work that went on. Even the fitting it in between 3 weekends or 3 games. It just sounds like a lot of work. So fantastic. Moving on, we did say we were going to come back to when we were talking about safe standing, come back to Hillsborough Law, didn't we? So I think, am I handing over to you, Rachel, for this one?
Yes. So with Hillsborough Law, yes, I mean it does link well with safe standing actually, and also links well with things that we can be really proud of. We are the first trust to have called for a new Hillsborough Law, and to endorse that, and also we've asked the club to do the same, along with Liverpool and Everton football clubs. This is something that's really important. I mean, obviously everybody, I'm sure absolutely everybody knows about the Hillsborough disaster in 1989 and the 96 who died, and the fact the way that the families were treated, the way that the people who died were treated, the absolute contempt in which they were held, the lies that were spread, the way they had to fight for years and years and cut through so much corruption, basically, and lies to finally get to the truth. And there have been some amazing dramas recently which have sort of illustrated that. But it is heartbreaking. And I think for Tottenham, it's particularly important as well, because lots of people will know that we had a semi-final there where we raised all sorts of concerns, and there was a real risk of a tragedy happening then. This was, I think, in 1981. And it was in the Leppings Lane end, and a very similar situation, which was only narrowly averted. And of course, of the 96, actually one of the 96 was a Tottenham Hotspur supporter, Colin Sefton. So it's something that's very close to us, as well as just being part of, a decent, anyone with any sort of sense of decency would not want anybody to have to go through what the families went through. So obviously, first of all, you'd want to make sure that everything was safe and that the disaster couldn't happen. But the Hillsborough Law is basically saying that if there is a disaster, then there is an obligation. I mean, it's unbelievable that you've even got to say this. There's an obligation that public inquiries, people have to tell the truth. You have to be open. You have to tell the truth. And the other thing is that the groups of families and people who are trying to get to the truth have to be funded to the same extent that those defending themselves have to be. And I think that's one of the things that really jumped out with Hillsborough, was that these were ordinary families from Liverpool and from all over the country, but those who were going, these were not rich people. They had to beg, steal, or not steal, but beg or borrow the money to get representation and rely on people doing pro bono work. It's just outrageous. So this new law is really, really important, and I'm really proud that we as a trust are the first trust to be promoting it and backing it. And I would urge everybody to look on our website, read more about it, and write to your MPs, write to the club, and we need to build the support for this and make sure that it becomes law.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, really important subject, and because you still feel, don't you? Even I know this isn't necessarily linked to Hillsborough Law, but I always look at incidents at rugby games and cricket games and horse racing and things like that, and the way the difference of other fans are treated, other spectators are treated to football fans, and it does. We even had recently, didn't we? In my day job, I have to be careful, but the football leader, the police chief's council, talking about fans being able to drink at within the stadium and saying that's a danger. It's just absolutely ludicrous. It's so important that the football fans are treated fairly, and we've had some not just in this country, but also when you go to European games as well, don't you? We've had some terrible experiences of European football, so it's really important. And no, thanks for bringing this up to date. It's a terrible subject, and as you say, a real tragedy that even now, oh God, how many years later, we're still sort of fighting for justice in that area. I guess it's one of those. The Hillsborough Law really highlights what supporters trust and what football fans can do as well, doesn't it? And on that note, as a supporters trust, we've got our AGM coming up, and it might be something that interests people listening in on this podcast, something they want to be involved in, or something they want to listen into, and then be more involved in the trust afterwards. So I'll just give you a quick sort of update on what that means. So I think the start of the year, it's been dominated by preparations for the annual conference, the annual general meeting, which is on Wednesday, the 16th of February. Mainly for our co-chairs, Martin and Kat. They're probably doing most of the work on the AGM, and so quick shout out to them as well for the work they're doing there. What usually happens ahead of each AGM, 1/3 of the trust board resigns, and those board members that are permitted to seek re-election by the membership, they can do if so desired. So this year, and I think you're up for election, aren't you? Adam Bailey, and Rachel as well. So yeah, the two of us on here, and Pete Haynes. So Rachel, Adam, and are seeking re-election, but Pete's sadly not. He's
Kev,
and Kevin.
Kevin, Pete stepping down. So massive shout out to Pete and Kev. Pete, our secretary, and Kev, who's been on the trust for a few years now. So thanks to them for all their work, and I'm sure we'll mention that at the AGM. But if you're interested in the AGM, you're interested in finding out what happens there, interested in finding out more about what we do as a supporters trust and how it works, the mechanics, we do have a dedicated AGM page on our website. So if you go to THSTofficial.com. You could go to our most recent article, which is our newsletter. You can go to point 1, which is the THST AGM and annual report. You can click the link there for our dedicated AGM page on our website, and you will get a variety of information. You can find out more. You can be there. It's a virtual meeting. You can be there. You can listen in. You can vote. You can have your say. Obviously, you've got to be a member. So you might be too late if you're not already a member. But if you are, we'd love to see you involved and get your voice heard. But that's coming up on the 16th of February. So 2 days after Valentine's Day. So you can't forget.
Sorry, talked over there. 7 o'clock, isn't it? 7 o'clock start, I think.
7 o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah, Wednesday, 16th of February. Brilliant. Okay, that's the AGM. We don't just do AGMs, do we? At Tottenham Hotspur Sports Trust. We also do a variety of different nights out for members, and one of them is our forthcoming quiz, which Rachel, you can tell us about.
Yes, I mean, I'm really sad that I'm going to be taking over the organisation, or leading on the organisation of the quiz, because it was always Kevin Fitzgerald who did such a fantastic job. The quiz, we've had to cancel it for the last couple of years, but we've run, I think it's 2 or 3 at the Antwerp Arms, which is in Tottenham, very near the ground. It's a great night. Everybody, is welcome. You have to register via email. We'll send out invitations and things so you'll know. But basically, it's on the 21st of April, a Thursday. We've got Theo Delaney as the host, and there'll be a variety of rounds, some quite historic and some a bit more sort of up to date. But I mean, I have to say I find them really hard. But I do I tend to do the picture rounds and things, and I've got some up my sleeve now that I'm working on. It's always a great night, and you can come along individually or with a team, but you must book first because obviously, especially with COVID regulations, there'll be strict limits on how many people we can host. Prize for the best, no wooden spoons or humiliation for the last. And we hope to see you.
Brilliant. I loved it. I loved writing the quiz questions. I did 80s and 90s for a couple of. I had some amazing David Howes and Steve Sedgley questions. I can't remember what they were. I'll have to look them up again. I don't know if they actually made it through, but they couldn't all be Paul Gascoigne and Gary Lineker questions, could they? So it was brilliant. No, thank you. Go on, Anne.
And another event that we always do as well, which is proudly back as well, is our summer barbecue. So 29th of May. I actually wasn't in the last meeting, so I don't know if we know what hosts we've got and things for the barbecue. You've got you thinking, but the barbecue is always a great event. There's food and also a raffle of lots of like spares, memorabilia, or like local products as well and things. And it's always a fun day out. Usually, touch wood, we get good weather. So hopefully again we'll get good weather for it. So yeah, that's another date for the diary.
Yeah, you've just reminded me actually, Ant, that the last quiz, I mean, it was just so fantastic. The club really support us with these kind of things. And Ledley came to the quiz, but he didn't just come to the quiz. He came and did the quiz with the club team. He was there all night. He mixed with everybody. He was so just fantastic.
Wasn't one of your pictures of him?
Yeah, well, he tweeted a bit of my. We get our pleasures where we can. He tweeted a bit of my picture round, which was Luka Modric as a child because he couldn't get it. So he said to organise this.
I have to say as well, the first barbecue we did, or the first bar I went to, when Ledley came, and I think Paul Coitz was there, wasn't it? And they did the raffle together, and my 3 kids, they made it because we were just standing there nearby, and Ledley let them do the raffle draw with them. My 17-year-old still talks about it now. Whenever anyone says anything to him, he'd be like, "Well, have you ever done a raffle draw with Ledley King?" No. So that's his default response to anything, and they still talk about it now. It's brilliant. But as you say, Rachel, he was there for hours. Couldn't do enough for people. It's lovely. But same with the mural. But just great shout out to the club as well for the help that they do. They offer us with those events. Brilliant. So the end of season barbecue and the forthcoming quiz, something to look forward to. And do you know what was really nice about the early quizzes and the barbecues? The barbecue was usually just after we'd qualified for the Champions League. Who got a bit used to that, didn't we? It was like, oh, another year in the Champions League. This will always be how it's going to be. But we won't go over that. We won't say why that's changed. The final point from us, Rob, and it goes back again to a vital cause, a vital bit of work, Rob, that we do with supporting the community, isn't it? And that's the food bank work, Rob. Do you want to give us an update on that? Yeah,
indeed. Well, I've got to sort of give another shout out to Pete, because I'm taking this role on from Pete. So I'm sort of really still learning the ropes on this, but Pete's done an awful lot of I guess coordination and joined up the dots with our food bank work. So I'm picking up from that. The food bank is going to move to, I think it's monthly, one game a month now, and I'm 99% certain that the next game is the home game against Wolves. That the food bank will be back in operation. The van will be outside the top, well, in the car park of the Tottenham Community Centre, which again is just along from the Ledley King mural. So while you're having a look at the Ledley King mural, take some food donation and drop it off there. Keep an eye out. We'll clarify that in our social media feed. But as I say, I'm 99% certain that the next designated game is the Wolves match. If you're not attending games, you can still support the food banks at any time by texting Coy's Food Bank, and any donation amount to 70085. But all of this is on the Trust website, I believe. If not, just rewatch this. So if you're not there, just text Coy's Food Bank to 70085. That's really it as far as the food bank. I'm going to get more information in the next few weeks when I get this handover from Pete. But yeah, let's keep donating. Let's push it on.
Yeah, absolutely, vital cause. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, look, that's it. So we're back as a podcast team. We'll bring in more of these updates and this kind of stuff. We are going to have a couple of special guests along the way, so keep your eyes and ears open for those. Just a reminder, if you are listening to this podcast on Spotify or iTunes, you can also watch us film these on YouTube, and they're available via our social media accounts on Facebook and Twitter, and also on our website. Look, and Rob, Rachel, thank you so much for giving up your time this evening. We'll be back again in a few weeks' time. Hopefully we'll have some more points on the board and our new signings have settled in and the pain of Delhi leaving will have subsided. But we'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.